You're going to open Photoshop by going down to the launch pad at the bottom on your dock and sliding over till you see the PS. Click to open the program. Now you can leave the program down in your dock if you want to click and hold on the icon and go to Options, Keep in Dock. Okay, now that Photoshop is open, we're going to open up a new document. So go to File, New. You're going to look for the word Print, and you go to those options. Okay, we're going to open up a letter page, which is 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. That's a normal printable size. So you're going to click on that, and then over in the right column gives you some options to change, like your measurements, your orientation. If you want portrait or landscape, 300 DPI is usually what we have it set at. That's the default. You're going to hit Create. So on the left, you have your main tool menu. These are the most important tools that you have access to. Don't forget about this main menu across the very top. Even though it's not a part of the actual floating window, it is a part of the program. Alright, so if you were to slow down as you went over the tools on the left, you'll notice that it gives you kind of like a demo and a definition of what each tool will do. And just note that a lot of the tools on the left share space with other tools, so if you click and hold, you'll find those. On the right side of the program, you're going to notice some windows open, and the most important one that you'll be using is a layer window. Right now, all we see is a background layer. We're going to talk more about layers in a bit, but we're going to come back over here and start with the selection tools. So on the second from the top is the rectangular marquee tool, and you are going to draw out a rectangle using that tool. Now you'll notice that the lines around the rectangle are dancing. I like to call them dancing ants, but it lets you know something is selected. We're going to go down and pick the paint bucket tool, which is about halfway down. And then we're also going to go down to the color picker and choose a color that we might like to use to spill the paint into our rectangle. You'll notice that the color only went into the selected area, and now I can see a little orange rectangle in my background layer in my layers menu. Now I'm going to go up to the same tool and click and hold and pick the elliptical marquee tool, and basically it allows me to make ellipses and circles. I'm going to go to the color picker, pick something else, go back to the paint bucket tool, fill that with that color. Now I'm going to go to the tool right underneath that. These are the lasso tools, and I'm going to start with the regular lasso tool at the top. Okay, it lets you make sort of organic single stroke lines that will close when you let go of the clicker. I'm going to go ahead and fill it with a color from the color picker so you can kind of see the shape that I've made. Okay, and then there's a polygonal lasso tool that's right up underneath that one, and it lets you make stops as you click so that it's more of a geometric shape that you create as you go around. When you get to the ends, you can either close it or double click and it will complete the shape. I'm going to pick another color and also fill it with the paint bucket tool. To get rid of the selection, I'm going to go up to the top, select, deselect. All the little dancing ants disappear. We're going to now talk about our layers menu over here. So right now I have one layer, labeled background. There's a little icon list at the bottom. I'm going to click on new layer, and it creates a layer called layer 1 above my background layer. I'm going to come and do what we just did a minute ago, make a selection, pick a color, and fill it. So now I have this pink circle. I'm going to deselect my dancing ant, so select, deselect gets rid of them. I'm going to click on a move tool very top of your left tool list. And I'm going to grab the pink circle and I'm going to move it around. And it moves independently of the background because it is on a separate layer. It's on layer 1 and the background images are on another layer. I'm going to click new layer. Again, this time I'm going to make a square. Pick a different color because we like colors. deselect the selection, get my move tool again, and I'm going to move it independently. So in my layer menu, I've got layer 1, layer 2, I've got a background layer, and depending on what layer I have selected, allows me to affect what's on that layer. I can even rearrange them front to back. So if I wanted the circle on top, I move it up, and then I can still work on the square in the background. Just a few more things to note. You can poke your layers in the eye, and that way you can turn on and off the different layers so you can see things independently. You can also throw layers into the garbage, so if you don't need a layer, you can drag it down to the little trash can icon. Okay, we're going to use a new tool called the brush tool. And the brush tool has options across the top. I opened up the window. You can affect the type of brush tip, the width, the sizing, and it shows you kind of what it'll look like at the bottom. I'm going to pick a different color just so you can see what it does and squiggle around for you. I'm going to show you another tool over here called the eraser tool. Whatever layer you're on, you can erase what's on that layer. So I'm going to click around and do some erasing for you. Next is the type tool, and the type will allow you to click. It makes a new layer for you. You'll notice the little text layer over on the right. You can get your move tool. You can move it around just as another layer. If you want to edit, you double click on the T. In the layer menu, you can change the color along the top, and you have a drop down box for font. Next is the shape tool, and it has a bunch of different shapes you can pick from. I'm going to make a series of squares for you. With the shape tool, when you make the shapes, it creates a new layer with each stroke of your mouse. They can easily be deleted by throwing them in the garbage. I'm going to keep one and move it around. It also can be used with the move tool, just as the other shapes we created with the selection tools. A few more features and tools we should go over. Your layer menu can be moved out from the right and opened up more. You may need this when you have more layers if you accidentally close it. All the menus are available under Window at the top. You can turn them right back on. There is a magnifying glass tool that lets you zoom in and out of your work. Right above that's a little hand. So if you zoom in and then go grab your hand, it lets you kind of maneuver your artwork around up close. You can get your magnifying glass and pull back to view everything on your screen. Starting from the top, this is what you now know. Your move tool, selection tools. You have brush tool. You have paint bucket tool, text tool, shape tool, zoom in tools. You know about the color palette at the bottom. You know about the layer menu on the right side and how to manipulate your layers. Saving your artwork. You're going to go File, Save As, and then you're going to be able to name it at the top. You'll notice that there's a .psd, that means Photoshop. It's file extension for Photoshop. You're going to pick on the left side where you want to save it, choose your desktop. The format's a Photoshop file, that's the PSD, and you're going to hit save. Maximize compatibility, you're going to click OK. To save it as a JPEG that you're going to turn in because you're done with the Photoshop, you're going to go to the layer menu, drop down, go to flatten image, and you'll notice all your layers turned into one layer. File, save as. Again, you can name it. You're going to change the PSD file, but not up there. And that drop down, you're going to pick JPEG, JPEG. Click save. JPEG options are going to pop up. You just want to kind of slide it all the way to 12. Click OK, and you're good to go. Okay, I'm going to close the program, and you'll notice my two files are on my desktop, the PSD and the JPEG. And the PSD has the layers, and the JPEG doesn't.